welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters in the nation's commercial nerve center. I'm Jeffrey Ozama. Let's bring you up to speed with the big happenings in politics and in the polity at midday. The People's Democratic Party plunged into further chaos in Taraba State as 3 state chairmen emerged from different state congresses. Hoodlums of thugs disrupt a meeting of the African Democratic Congress ADC in Bakassi local government area of Cross River State. Conflicting reports over arrest of suspected bandits around Akure Airport. Aviation security and Nigerian police contradict themselves over the identity of the suspects. Thanks again for joining us on the program. Today we're going to focus on what is playing out in the Middle East as it affects Nigeria, the economy broadly. I'll be talking to an economist, so it's a good one for you to listen to how this will affect you one way or the other. But let's talk about what has been playing out in Ondo State, in Akure, to be specific, where the identity of about 4 suspects arrested within the vicinity of the Akure Airport in Ondo State is now a subject of controversy as the aviation security and the Nigerian police force differ on who they are. Initial statement by the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN, reports that 4 suspected bandits were arrested within the vicinity of the Akure Airport, following coordinated security operation involving aviation and local security agencies. Well, the statement adds that the arrest followed the distress alert that suspicious individuals were sighted behind the airport perimeter towards the Eleyawo community. However, the police has a different version of the same event. The police spokesman in the state, DSP Abayomi Jimo, says no such incident occurred at the airport and there was no security breach of any kind at the facility. It says the force received intelligence from concerned citizens and acted on it. Operatives of the command launched a targeted operation in the area, which led to the arrest of 2 suspects, noting that preliminary investigations revealed that the suspects are kidnap logistics suppliers aiding kidnap activities within the state, adding that the suspects have made confessional statements that will aid the investigation. So who do we believe? The aviation security that said 4 people were arrested and they are bandits, or the Nigerian police force that said 2 people were arrested and they are just, I want to use their exact words now, kidnap logistics suppliers aiding kidnap activities? Bottom line, there's criminality around that place. So we'll find out who we'll listen to eventually. So that is the story from Akure in Ondo State. Let's talk about politics, where in Taraba State, the People's Democratic Party, loyal to the Mohammed Abdurrahman, have conducted a state congress. The exercise, however, turned chaotic after the emergence of 2 consensus candidates. This led to a huge disagreement between the 2 groups, which needed the intervention of security operatives in order to restore order.
What started peacefully as a state congress organized by the Mohammed Abdurrahman-led PDP faction turned dramatic when Congress committee members announced Victor Falak as a consensus candidate and winner of the Taraba State chairmanship position, thereby sparking outrage.
Let me read this document of this consensus to our hearing that have been signed by all the stakeholders from various local governments to make up the consensus.
He's immediately contradicted by another member announcing a different person, Ibrahim Saleh, as a consensus candidate and winner of the chairmanship position alongside others. He argued that Victor Falak only served as a caretaker committee chairman of Taraba State and was only asked to serve for 30 days.
We have a chairman, Alhaji Ibrahim.
They are immediately sworn in.
Get true allegiance.
Shortly after, supporters of Victor Falak attacked the chairman of the Congress for announcing a different person as the winner, a situation which snowballed into chaos, forcing the police to whisk him away in their van. The newly sworn-in chairman of the party speaks on the controversy that trailed the Congress.
Falak is not occupying any position because he was the immediate past caretaker chairman. He was the chairman, he was given 1 month to steer and had congresses across the ward, local government, and which culminates with the state Congress today. Though he too, he wants to be the substantive chairman, but delegates said no.
At the moment, the People's Democratic Party has 3 chairmen. One, Obadiah Bitrus, who was the deputy chairman of the party before his chairman defected to the APC alongside Governor Kefas. Victor Falak, who still claims chairmanship position of the party, and now Ibrahim Saleh, who came in through consensus voice votes. All attempts to speak to Victor Falak proved abortive as his phone lines remain unreachable.
What is going on in our Bakassi? Scatter everywhere. Huh? We don't need any party here apart from APC in Bakassi. We don't want anybody. Come on, scatter everywhere. Scatter everywhere.
Cross River State, where the police commander has confirmed the official opening of the ADC coalition movement new secretariat was disrupted moments before it was even set to begin. The event, which attracted coalition members and supporters, was meant to mark a key milestone for the movement. Unidentified individuals stormed the venue, damaging canopies, scattering chairs, and tampering with sound system, prompting panic and forcing organizers to suspend the ceremony. The police public relations officer in the state, Sunday Etopa, said the officers and tactical teams were quickly deployed to restore order, even as the situation is now under control and investigations are ongoing to identify those responsible. So you can see some hoodlums or thugs, whichever name you want to describe them, disrupting the ADC meeting. We understand is the coalition new secretariat in Bakassi, I should say, local government area of Cross River State. This is very sad and unfortunate and totally condemnable and absolutely not allowed in a democratic space. But the police has assured that they've swung into action so that everybody has a right to belong to whatever they want to belong to in terms of their party affiliation.
We don't need any party here apart from APC in Bakassi. We don't want anybody. Come on, scatter everywhere. Scatter everywhere. For Bakassi, yeah. We don't come on. Scatter everywhere. Come on. Everywhere must shut down. We don't want any party here. That APC. Party. Go and call now chapter chairman to call our this. Don't want APC anywhere. Shut down. Call them and tell them. Scatter everywhere. Come on, scatter everywhere.
It's a shame. Well, for the Cross River State APC, in my view, the only way to dissociate or absolve yourself of complicity of not creating a hostile environment for opposition is to simply officially distance yourself in a statement and get to work with the police so that the individuals who are responsible for this are brought to book. That is the only way to absolve yourself. This is democracy. APC should be allowed to be APC, PDP should be allowed to be PDP, ADC, whatever. It's democracy. We're running a country, not a cult, not whatever it is. So it's a contest of ideas that we need right now, not this thuggery that belongs to the past in our Nigerian politics. Let's bring in my guest, an economist, the chief economist at SPM Professionals, Dr. Paul Alaje. Dr. Alaje, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you so very much for having me.
I'm so sorry for dragging you. I'm always dragging you at a very crucial time, but it's for national service. I'll thank you for it as always. And I'm sure you saw the video of the shameful kind of politics some people are trying to play, those thugs. But that's not your business. Your business now. Your business is the economy and how what's playing out in the Middle East. is playing out. We woke up to the fact that the week started off with above $100 for Brent, I think for others as well. We did about 104. Last week was more wild. We got to a few cents short of $120 per barrel, but it tapered down. We're still expecting our own inflation numbers. I don't know whether to be affected, but I know that of much to be affected. So where I'm going to with all of this is a question everybody's asking: how the Nigerian government intends to respond to the surge in price when you compare to what's happening in other climes. What's your take?
Okay, thank you so very much. You recall that the war in the Middle East, that is US, Israel on one side versus Iran on the other side, escalated beyond what many thought. A lot of persons have thought this war will not be more than 15 days. We have crossed the first 15 days bound, and we have made projection that if this war cross certain limits, certainly the price of crude will jump and the price of PMS will jump. It will affect non-oil producing country and producing country together. We have started seeing that playing out. So now for us as Nigerians, the price of PMS has since jumped to above 1,100. We expect that price to go even further with the price that Brent crude posted today. If this price goes to about 20, we expect the local price to jump a bit above 1,500 or near 1,500 per liter. That means diesel may also join to 1,617 if nothing is done. The question which you have asked will be that what can the Nigerian authority do in this regard? And I've made a recommendation on one of your sister programs or sister show regarding what Nigerian government can do. One is to properly understand the situation on ground and know that this is purely an externality. The externality project, it simply means that there is nothing we can do about it. But locally, there are a few things that Nigerian authority can do about negative externalities in the case of war. So one of the things is that we need to prepare beforehand for what has happened. And so I will tell you what we should do now and what we should do so that when another world comes, it does not affect us badly. The first thing we need to do now is to look at crude that Nigeria is producing. How can we give to a functional refinery in Nigeria at a much discounted rate such that prices can be not more than 1,000, between 800 to 1,000 for Nigerians? I can tell you that before now, that has not been the case. Since we have removed subsidy, it has been believed that Nigeria should buy at what market forces is saying. Now we should have the vulnerable. Giving the vulnerable 5,000, 10,000 will not solve the problem. Please give me a moment. Even the CNG gas is also affected. GNC is not at the rate it is. That's also increased slightly. What I think Nigeria authority need to do quickly is to find that partnership with the Dangote refinery. Thank God we have a refinery that is functional. We must have that partnership. We must have that discussion. I don't know if that discussion is going on already with Dangote refinery. How do we make sure the price does not get above the reach of average? And then you know the reason. The reason is because cost of transportation has increased sporadically. In areas where people pay 300 naira, they are not paying 500 naira. In areas where people pay 500 naira, they are not paying 700 naira. In fact, reports are getting to us that even motorcyclists has also increased what they were charging Nigerians to move from one place to the other. All of this because of war, that no missile, with which no missile, no gunshot have been fired on our soil. So this is what we need to do now. But because it's important for us to protect ourselves against the next 2 years. Why did I say next 2 years? 2018, it was America versus China in trade war. And I don't know if you remember that also increased, that caused an increase in price of oil and inflation in Nigeria among other countries of the world. Even at that, not too long before that, we also shut our borders. So 2020, it was COVID. We had the conversation. 2022, it was Russia versus Ukraine. 2024, even though it started 2023, but it became potent in 2024, which was Israel versus Hamas. Now this is 2026, and we are experiencing this. The question is, what will happen in 2028 and 2030? Nigeria needs to have a reserve. We need to have a reserve. where we can have a strategic reserve for some of the energy sources. If not, I can tell you critically that this will affect us again. So it's important for us as a nation to ensure that we have reserve on one hand before the time of war, and on the second hand, to take a decision today. Just this morning, just over the weekend, UK has announced that it's going to support fuel support for the poorest of the poorest in that country. I believe that His Excellency Mr. President and his team, especially him being the Minister for Petroleum in Nigeria, we need to look at this very critically. Already we have about 140 million Nigerians living in poverty. How do we support them? How do we reduce the impact? And I can tell you that in the coming period, I expect the President to have, of course, perhaps national broadcast, or to issue a statement through his spokespersons in the villa, so that Nigeria can see how do we really face these ongoing challenges that is affecting prices and inducing inflation.
I don't want to drag into politics, but President of Nigeria speaking to the populace is almost like a privilege. It's not a culture here, sadly. Literally, the country has to burn sometimes for some presidents to speak. That's some of the things where we're very critical of them, that you should be accountable to the people. But when we come back after this break, I want you to help us as an economist navigate the difficult part the government is towing. The government of President Bola Tinubu is neoliberal in that sense. With its policies, it has, removed the wage bill and removed subsidy in this sense. So, headlining, removing subsidy. Now, you talked about the strategic reserve. First, strategic reserve is first for availability, to guarantee supply, not necessarily for affordability. So we need to also navigate that part as well. When we come back after this break, stay with us. Welcome back. We're examining the impacts of the war on Iran on Nigeria. We're kilometers far away from what's playing out in a geographical location, but it has global impact on all of us, especially what concerns you and I, the pump price of PMS and associated petroleum products as well. Paul Alaje is Chief Economist at SPM Professionals. Dr. Paul, I was saying that the dilemma, even if we have a strategic reserve, for instance, sometimes asks, are we a crisis-ready leadership in that sense, which is what you're talking about? But help us try to understand how the government can navigate standing on its policy of removing subsidy, having a reserve, for instance, but reserve is for availability, not for price management, and the costs, human costs of such decision or inaction.
Okay, thank you so very much. I agree with you to some extent that reserve is for availability. At the same time, if there is no reserve and we are faced with the challenge that we have now, there will be shortage of supply. That eventually will affect price. People will buy out of panic, but if we are sure that we have a reserve that can last us for nearly 3 to 5 to 6 months, you can be sure that while Nigerian government is trying to navigate all of these, we can be sure prices, other things being equal, will not be at the rate at which we are seeing this increase. Definitely we don't have, and all that we can say we have now as reserve will be for a private organization, private refinery that is willing to make profit from it. So Nigerian government, we need to understand the importance of having a reserve for the sake of the country. That said on one side. On the second side, it's important for authorities to also note that the war may not end even by the end of March, as many of us have thought that it won't last beyond 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so. Most people thought the crisis between Ukraine and Russia will be for a year. This is almost 4 years. Keep counting. The crisis is still there. Remember that the Strait of Hormuz plays critical role in the global oil supply chain. In fact, beyond oil, it has major critical role. I understand that strait has been opened partially, but America is saying that they must also have access, including some of the persons, Israel, that has, of course, been restricted by Iran. Now, how all of this will play out is yet to be unknown, because as of this morning, reports from the Middle East still indicated that missiles are still flying from one country to the other. For instance, the GCC are still receiving and still trying to protect themselves from the missiles that is coming out from Iran. And while on the Iran side, reports still have it that there are still drones and missiles that are landing on their soil, especially one of the critical islands in that country. So for us as Nigerians, what we need to do, therefore, is to ensure that we find a way, since we have the crude and we also have a functional refineries, the impact should be minimal on us. And how do I mean? UK is thinking, how do I support the vulnerable and the poorest of the poorest? What the Nigerian government could have done in this case is, about 7-8 years ago, we started advocacy for connecting our city center via rail to the suburb areas. That investment, if it has started sporadically in those areas, today we can put people on rail. And I can tell you that for most parts of the world, places I've visited, people no longer use diesel-driven rail. We can support the Nigerian Railway Corporation by voting more money to their management to invest in Nigeria, especially areas where we can connect the rural area to urban center, food areas, and all of those people also going to work. We need to make them work this moment today. Again, we've also seen that we might be needing more buses, which can help, of course, Nigerians to reduce, the poorest of the poorest to reduce the impact. But what happens to the middle class? Who exactly are they offended? The answer is nobody. That is why I strongly believe that the President Tinubu administration, we need to have this critical conversation with Dangote Refinery regarding giving that organization diesel less at some percentage less, and also guarantee output or sales at country price at a price lower than 1,000 naira.
Yes.
I think if we do this, it's not going to be permanent, it's going to be temporary. Listen, government did this in the case of rice, and I will use rice as an example. Before that,
Doctor, if I may comment, my apologies, if I may comment. Yes, if I may comment, just as you add to that, because I wanted to come to that Dangote part. So, for instance, now we understand from what I know that where we may criticize Buhari for all we want, a lot of people's economy, we understand what happened with the Buhari government in terms of economic management. It was less than desirable. But one thing we can give him credit for is the coming on stream of the Dangote refinery. He has to take credit for that, God rest his soul. Now, talking about the Dangote refinery, for instance, the complaint has always been it needs about 18 cargoes a month. The NNPCL also gives him about maybe 8 cargoes. I think in total, I think about between, let's say, 35 to 40% of what he requires to run his refinery. And it's at premium, as a matter of fact. Now, he's increased his price, the gantry price, from, if we use the 776, for instance, to where it was, maybe 1,075, we're talking about 38%, 40%, as against the increases we see in other parts of the world, maybe lesser than that. So he's who we have right now. Government is not moving the way we want them to move. Is this the best he can do for citizens, besides the things he's done, from your estimation?
Well, I think right now, I would think both as somebody in business and also someone in governance. I have to wear both caps and be balanced. Honestly, I'll tell you that Nigeria needs Dangote Refinery more than Dangote Refinery needs us at this time. I'll be very plain and tell you the truth about this. One, importing now, it's going to be a disaster if we try to import. This is not the right time. And I'm happy that we did not fall for, let's import, let's stop monopoly. I have criticized monopolistic tendencies time and again, but I've also provided solutions. That it's better to have a duopoly or an oligopoly than have a monopoly. Now, those in authority have they have decisions to make. They have actions to take. Whether they will do that or not is another conversation for another day. But regarding Dangote, this is the best we have now. And I can tell you, of the total volume Dangote has, government can strike some deals with Dangote by giving at certain discounts. I tell you, if what Dangote is getting as input has not increased in price, there is no way Dangote would have increased guarantee price. Because his input has increased, it is just normal for a business person who set out to make profits, even though he's a Nigerian, but he has salaries to pay, he has bills to pay, he has input factor to pay for. So he would naturally increase his rate. But government can say, wait a minute, we have some oil that is stolen within the Niger Delta region, some of which your correspondent did add an elaborate video under President Buhari and revealed to Nigerians what exactly has been going on in that region. Do we now say that as we speak, 0% of Nigerian oil is stolen? I doubt. I have doubt about that. So, but how do we, because of what is going on, reduce these oil thefts significantly and guarantee Dangote more inputs from Nigeria at relatively discounted rate, provided it can also sell back to Nigeria PMS, diesel, jet, A1, because you see, inflation has major concern on our economy. Imagine if when you are going to and somebody who earns say 100,000 to go to your work, right now you are paying average of about 50,000, which I think is the most reasonable. But if you pay half of your money and transport costs increase by 50%, that means 75,000. How are you going to eat? How are you going to pay your rent? How are you going to pay for airtime? That's if you have a phone, and so on and so forth. So the situation is getting critical. The crude oil price is not reducing. It has increased further to 105, and this 105, when it gets to 110, we should be ready to pay more for PMS, for diesel, and the implication for that is pay more for industrial output. And this is where we have not got into. Output from April, things will be getting worse in price. And it's important for us to get that. Cost of finished product produced in Nigeria may be getting higher for Nigerians here, and cost of ticket, of course, for the rich, they will be affected. Cost for the poor, cost of transportation may be affected. If this one extends in April, and we are seeing crude oil still going higher, then what it means that even imported product, finished products, we need to pay more for most of them.
Maybe the PMI as well as the CPI will be able to give us good numbers as to what we'll look at, not necessarily for February, but maybe for March. Mama, thank you as always for helping us out on this intervention as far as the conversation around the impacts of the war in Iran is concerned when it concerns Nigeria. Thank you so much. Dr. Paul Alaje is a senior economist at SPM Professionals. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's it on the program. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.